Well, welcome to the Common Good Podcast. It's Tuesday, January 25th, and that means around here that it's Politics Day. Robb Ryerse, somewhere outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Doug Pagitt, somewhere outside of Minneapolis, hunkered down in a basement trying to save democracy from the Trumpists of our world. Dan Dietrich, over there in the home state of the man who didn't have the courage, Mike Pence. Mike Pence is shocking because in some ways he didn't have any courage for all those, and then did have courage, and then other people say he didn't have courage. That's what it's like when you're the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz. Hey, but we're also going to talk to somebody running for Congress today, Josh Remillard. He is wanting to make sure that Madison Cawthorn is no longer the congressman from North Carolina. I've got to make something go live. Rob, how are you today? Well, I'm
doing well, Doug. I'm doing well.
Instagram live feed.
That's right. I'm doing well. We are 288 days away from Election Day, so it is feels like it's something like that right around the corner and coming fast, and so we're gearing up for that. Yeah, Doug. I don't know if we have plans to talk about this today, but. Do you have any feelings? Do you have any impressions? Do you have any thoughts about the big M&M controversy? Oh no,
no, I didn't. I just for some unknown reason I happened to catch Stephen Colbert's monologue last night, and I mean I could tell you that whole story about how I end up watching local news, which in our area I haven't watched local news in years. And then yesterday we had a guy on talking about local news. I kind of felt a little convicted. Shelley said, let's try to watch some local news because MSNBC's 11 o'clock show, the 11th hour, has just gone off the rails. And so we tried. They were miserable. I mean, I don't know what's happened to our local news. They're just bizarre. Ended up on CBS. And then Stephen Colbert came on. And then he made mention, Stephen Colbert, of something about the green M&M not being sexy anymore. And I was confused because just days earlier, I was at the Mall of America with one of our little grandchildren, Wesley Puck, who's 2, and they have a big M&M store there, and he was in playing with the M&M characters. So the whole thing seemed confusing to me. I don't know anything about it. Can you enlighten a guy who doesn't know what's
I'm not sure we need to spend much time on this, but the social conservatives, the culture warriors are absolutely freaking out because M&M's has rebranded and in an attempt to make the green M&M kind of display more kind of self-confidence and self-security, has moved her from her sexy boots to a pair of very sensible sneakers. And so
I just like the phrase "sensible sneakers."
So the Tucker Carlsons of the world are completely up in arms that the.
Look, if anybody ever wondered if Tucker Carlson was just goofing on Elvis, the guy is just milking and taking what he can. The guy is.
Oh goodness.
You can't believe he is a serious character. Is this really coming from a Tucker Carlson world of shenanigans and nonsense?
Yeah, but Tucker Carlson was actually just riffing off of, the Twitter controversy. It was the green M&M was trending on Twitter, and so I think probably his show producers, as they were getting ready, that's probably show prep for them is, seeing what's trending on Twitter and then, having some hot take about it. And I gotta say, listen, I want the green M&M to wear whatever shoe she's comfortable in.
Well, I'll tell you when I was at the Mall of America M&M store, they have large, characters around there, not moving. They're like, mannequins. And I got my pronoun wrong when I said to Wesley Puck when he was running up to the one little guy. I said, "Hey, you want to run and see that little guy?" I said, "Oh, it's a girl, it's a woman," because the legs were demonstrably female with high heels. That was literally the first moment that I even thought that M&Ms had gender, and that the gender was notable by their footwear. So
well,
maybe I'm just late to the game on what it takes to have to understand the gender of my candies.
clearly you have not spent any time, looking at the green M&M, because the sexy boots are gone, and which
All
is oh, there we go. Look at producer Dan coming up with it.
Candy in sexy shoes is highly offensive. For the culture of this Tucker Carlson Trumpist wing of our American politics, they're always talking about how easily offended progressives and liberals are. And yet, night after night, day after day, especially in the teeny little tweet verse, these people are running nothing but how they have been wronged and offended.
Are you laughing at Trish's comment that just came through? Trisha said, "I thought it was their eyebrows that showed their gender."
Right? Yes. I don't know what shows, but okay, Trisha, thanks for sticking with us. Dave, thanks for living in just the craziest political world. It's really something.
Listen, let's move away from the M&Ms. I didn't mean to get us off track there. Speaking of crazy, we have a special treat for everybody. I don't know if you've seen Donald Trump Jr.'s latest Facebook video. It's about 5 minutes. It's been clipped down to about 30 seconds
nice.
That give the salient parts. For those of you that are listening or watching, Doug has not seen this video. And so we're going to show it and get Doug's immediate initial out of the gate, first impressions and reactions. So speaking of crazy, we're moving from Candy to Don Jr. So we are,
deep breathe, because, I have strong feelings about this man.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we go.
Because, can't put Joe Biden in the same room as someone. He might let one rip. Guys, Joe Biden is what stands between us and a nuclear-capable China. Joe Biden is the guy they're going to call at 3 a.m. if there's a serious crisis with Russia.
Okay, when you've been day drinking and you get into evening, you probably ought not point your phone at your face. So apparently in the Don Jr. world, what they want to do is now paint that somehow Joe Biden is incapable and is reckless and dangerous, and the 2 a.m. phone call bit, they're going to try to tout that one out here.
Yeah. Can we talk about the letting one rip? And also the, which, come on, like that.
Did Joe Biden pass gas in front of someone?
I don't know. I don't know.
I would imagine, funny, as someone who has passed gas in many public settings, because I just know myself, that there's no doubt the man has a legacy. He's been in so many rooms over so many years.
Sure. Yeah. But the other thing is the danger that Joe Biden could enable a nuclear capable China. Don Jr., I know you probably didn't pay attention in school very much at that, Loomis Chafee School for the Rich that you went to in Connecticut, I'm sure, wearing your little uniform, playing lacrosse.
Jeez. Wow. Yeah. All right. Keep going. The deep conservative roots come out about the pretentious Ivy Leaguers, but go on. You lacrosse
China already
uniform
has nuclear weapons. China already has nuclear weapons.
Yes.
Joe Biden will not make China nuclear capable, because they already are.
Was his suggestion that Joe Biden was going to allow China to become nuclear capable?
Yes.
That was the pitch?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Well, once again, the least loved son of a twice impeached failed president is just illuminating the beauty of
Doug. You and I have attended together we have attended a Donald Trump rally
Yes.
in Manchester, New Hampshire in 2020. We went and heard Don Jr. speak, and then we heard Mike Pence speak, and then we heard as much as we could take of Donald Trump speak before we left. And we were there in a building that Donald Trump, I think, claimed 40,000 people were in, but the capacity of the building is 12,000 people.
Yes, and it wasn't full.
And wasn't full. One of my takeaways from that night was the rock star quality of Don Jr. with that crowd.
Yes.
His ability to give a speech and connect in a really charismatic way.
Yeah.
And it terrified me, quite frankly, for 2024. You remember, I walked away from that saying Don Jr. is going to be the nominee in 2024. It seems like the only thing that's probably going to keep Don Jr. from being the nominee in 2024, is
his lack of sobriety.
I was going to say the cloudiness he brings upon himself.
Yes. I think my guess is that of all the Trumps, Jr. is not going to be the one that the country is going to want to rally around to make the Republican nominee. Maybe his dad, but I think that's even fallen apart. He lost Laura Ingraham. She's probably going to come back to him, but he's losing the support of the ecosystem and of the echo chamber, and he's failing fast. There's a whole lot of reasons why we keep popping him up on our news and we keep talking about him here, because he really is still a character that has to be dealt with. But I think we're going to be haunted by the Donald Trump phenomena without him being the president of the United States or even being the nominee. I think it's just not going to go that way. But I've been wrong on everything about Donald Trump short of him not winning re-election.
Well, let's move on.
I'm
from
not
Donald
the guy.
Trump. Let's move on from Donald Trump and talk about Mitch McConnell.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
and so we
like
have two stories here that really tie together. It's Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden both saying things that were really on their minds. One of those we'll get to. Joe Biden saying on a hot mic that he thought one of the Fox News reporters was an SOB with a stupid question. And Mitch McConnell somehow making a distinction between black voters and American voters. And both of these could either be, well, whoopsie daisy, sorry, I misspoke, said something in my words that were not intended in my heart. Or both of them were, this is kind of what I really think, and it came out. I think Joe Biden does think that the Fox News reporter was acting immaturely and acting out of school with his sort of questioning and the way he was treating the president, and did think he was probably, somebody that deserved that. He just didn't want everyone to hear it. He, like he famously whispered in Obama's ear, because Joe Biden, while being a man of faith, much like other people of deep faith that I know, does have a bit of a sassy mouth and is a bit of a cusser. Little Lyndon Johnson, as it turns out. Like, he's very matter of fact and grandpa, but he's also like, this is a big effing deal, and that guy's a dumb SOB, and he tends to speak in those kind of vernaculars. But this Mitch McConnell thing was really quite shocking.
Let's play it, and so folks can hear.
What's your message for voters of color who are concerned that without the John L. Lewis Voting Rights Act, they're not going to be able to vote in the midterm?
Well, the concern is misplaced, because if you look at the statistics, African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans.
So there it is. And of course, people freaked out when the question was, what do you think, how are African American voters supposed to respond to something like, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act not coming? That was a question. And then he says, well, black voters voted just as high rates as Americans. And everybody's like, they are Americans. Like, what, like, was that just a misspeak? Or like, would you have said Republicans vote at the same rate as Americans? Would you have said white men vote at just the same rate as Americans? Yep. The point being that lack of qualifier if what he intended to say was
Yeah.
the same rate as all American. Yeah, you know what it reminded me of, Rob? It reminded me when a son-in-law comes into a family and somebody says, let's get all the family members together, and they call by name all of them except the new son-in-law because they don't really consider the son-in-law part of the family. And then they have to be reminded, oh yeah, you too. That's what it felt like a pattern of belief over time about who's in and who's not. And so it is a misspeak for sure, but it's a misspeak rooted in his deep held belief about who's in and who's not in.
Yeah. And so I think that I tend to think that what he was doing, I think he was concentrating so hard on saying African American and not slipping up that designation, not saying something inappropriate in terms of that designation, that like his brain, like he didn't know how to, like, okay, I said African American, now how do I balance that here? I can't say, white American, and it just ended up saying American. I think that's another explanation. But again, what that reveals is someone who is not comfortable at all in terms of, talking about race relations, not comfortable at all, that he isn't going to slip up. And then, this became such a big deal. This became such a big deal that he had to address it. Have you seen this, Doug? Have you seen him address it? Now, this comes to us as
I watched it just before we came on, so another dose would be good.
This is for those that are watching along with us. This comes from a TikTok video, and so you see someone watching this video and reacting to it. So that explains like the video here that we see, but the audio is part of what's important. But this is Mitch McConnell trying to explain or walk back or bring some greater clarity to saying that African Americans are not Americans.
I want to take an opportunity outset here to address the outrageous mischaracterization of my history and record on voting rights and race relations as a result of inadvertently leaving out the word almost in my comments the other day. African American turnout nationwide has been roughly increasing as all Americans has all increased.
Oh my gosh, it's just brutal.
The omitted word is all, not almost.
So then he tries literally to explain it, and he's not even sure what he said wrong the first time so much that he can fix it and get it right.
Oh, so hilarious. But how dare we suggest that Mitch McConnell does not have a great record when it comes to voting rights and race relations? The man who is photographed in front of a Confederate flag.
Nice.
Oh no. That's a
grand
amazing legacy.
But this all of this language, like it really does go back to like when he can't just simply say, what I was saying was that this racial group is behaving the same as all the other groups in our country. That's not hard to say. Like it's very different. And if I could make another point on the facts, not just on the verbiage and the slip up, on the facts, it's not true that African Americans vote at the same rate. He tried then to fix his comments by saying the increase in their voting in recent years is on par with the other increases. Not even getting at the real heart of the question from the reporter, that there are structures and systems that are preventing African Americans and other people of color. He actually said people of color, the reporter, keeping many people of color from engaging in our political process so that they're not voting at the same rate as people who are not identified in those racial groups. So that's the fact that he misspoke and sort of put it in a way that talked about African Americans separate from Americans is a problem. And the fact that then he tried to fix it and didn't really know how to fix it is also a problem and it could honestly, and I don't mean this in any disparaging way, it could just be the problem of an aging man. And then He doesn't actually deal with the very root of the question. And this is what's going to frustrate a lot of people I know, is that they're going to want him to actually say, you have to pass this legislation because, truth be told, we have groups in our country who do not vote at the same rates as the rest of the population of the United States. So, I mean, and this is, look, this is, in some ways, you know, it can be, hey, just run around and find every misspoken word and then go through Biden's speeches and pull this out. And people are doing this, you know, there's a lot of tit for tat right now around Joe Biden because of the way Donald Trump was treated for years. And the difference is Donald Trump wasn't misspeaking when people were freaking out. Daily, when we were exploding our minds and brains and being terrified, it's not because he misspoke. It's because he said the thing he intended to say. Whether it's from the bleach or there's good people on both sides, or Putin told me that they weren't involved in our elections. Why would I believe him, even though I've heard this from like, those were not misstatements. Those were not slip ups. Those were not whoopsie daisies. That was him literally saying what he thought. So I think with Mitch McConnell here, we're just really seeing that older Southern politicians still are stuck in a narrative that makes it very hard for them to speak in ways that feel like it connects with where we are. In fact, just the use of the phrase race relations. I mean, could you be any more 1968 talking about race relations? What do you... That construct of race relations is a problem. So there's just so much to all of this that is, in my mind, just unbelievably batty.
And I mean, we get the same thing. Like, I love that you're drawing a connection between Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell with this, and the opportunity to say, like, you know, what are we seeing here with older men? Like, is this just older men who can't, like, get their thoughts out correctly, or they're saying what they actually think, or the filter's gone for some reason? And so we've got this story with Joe Biden calling Peter Doocy of Fox News an SOB after Peter Doocy asked him a question that, you know, Biden thought was annoying because, frankly, it was. And he kind of mutters this, you know, that was a stupid question, you SOB. You know, and insults him, and
insults him privately, and everybody hears of it. Yeah,
because it's on a hot mic. But really, the really fantastic thing about this, to me, the reason I you know, for all of my tremendous policy differences with Joe Biden and my unbelievable frustration with him at times, he's just so dang endearing to me. Number one, because he like a grandpa, he calls a reporter an SOB under his breath. And then when it hits the fan for him, he calls Peter Doocy to clear the air. He calls him and says, "Hey man, it wasn't personal. Wasn't personal, pal." He says, and they have a conversation about it. And Peter Doocy says, "Hey, Mr. President, I'm going to keep asking you tough questions." And the president replies, like, "That's great. Keep doing that. Keep doing your thing." And like, this is such a tremendous difference in character from Donald Trump.
That's right. That's
like,
right.
This is
and from
Donald
a lot of
Trump,
politicians.
who said he never apologized for anything. He never was sorry for anything. You know, and here is like the goodness and the decency. Listen, we have all been in this boat, haven't we? Like, have we not all been in this place where we have said something tremendously stupid and have had to call somebody with our tail between our legs and said, like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry about this," or I misspoke, or there's
not me, because I don't apologize. I just don't apologize.
Yeah, I know.
It's a real good working plan. Just be non-apologetic.
To think that the president of the United States did that.
Sure.
I mean, like, this is
up.
a man of deep and profound character.
I get you.
Which
now,
I
will
really
say,
appreciate.
But much like Mitch McConnell's situation, the actual question that Doocy asked was, do you think inflation is going to be a political liability for you in the midterms? That's not a stupid question. I mean, Biden's response was, this dumb SOB, what a stupid question. Of course it's going to be a liability.
Yeah, he was sarcastic about it.
In some ways, it was a softball pitch, right? The way I would have said this to Joe Biden was, you missed a softball. What you should have said was, hey, I'm concerned about inflation, not because of how it's going to affect me or how it's going to affect our politicians, but because of how it affects the American people. And we're going to do everything we can to get this under control. Thank you so much for helping me to articulate the difference between what's good for me and what's good for the American people. When you're asked that question, it's not a stupid. There are no stupid questions. Every question is an opportunity for you to say the thing you mean, whether it's Mitch McConnell being asked a question about African-American voters and people of color not feeling supported by the way the legislation is going, or a Fox News reporter saying, basically tongue-in-cheek, hey, you're in trouble because of inflation. What's your response to that? Well, your response to that is, it's not about me.
Yeah,
right?
You're absolutely right.
That's a better response. And when they saw, what it reminds me of in some ways, do you remember when the reporter threw the softball pitch to Trump about what do you say to Americans who are scared right now? And he's like, you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. Don't bring up that people are scared. This felt very much like that to me. Yes. I know everybody's around why did he call him an SOB? Does he really think that about the press? Why does he have to call to apologize on this? But it's good that he did. And all of that. Right. And you can't teach old dogs new tricks. And he's just got to, that whole conversation that's gone on for a day. The better conversation in my mind to be having about this is, why'd you let that pitch slide by?
Yeah. Well, I think what it shows, and this is a shameless plug for people to check out the Common Good podcast that we had on Friday with economics professor Fadl Kaboub talking about inflation specifically and what causes it and what to do about it and how all of it actually works. I think that this is one of those things where people don't have a good understanding. Like they know, like they're just uncertain about how to talk about it. They're not quite sure. And frankly, to think that the president of the United States might be one of those folks that's just like, I would rather be sarcastic about it than really delve into it. That's an indication maybe that is scared about the impact that inflation could have on his presidency, is not sure what to do about it, and is, when someone responds defensively like this, it's because like there's some other fear, there's some other shame, there's some other thing going on inside of them. And that is a little bit troublesome, that maybe the president doesn't have a good plan when it comes to inflation. And he is scared about the impact it's going to have.
You're right. That's scary. And look, as it turns out, this press conference they were having yesterday was a press conference about inflation. And all the questions were about the Ukraine until this reporter, Fox reporter, asked about the political implications of inflation. So again, what he could have said was, thanks for getting us back on the topic here. And as I called this press conference to say the things we're going to do about this, here we go. So look, and this is what makes politics difficult. We've been saying for 4 years, for 5 years, and I want to keep saying it as we go. The role of the presidency is to be the executive of the executive branch, right? It's not to be have other kinds of issues or problem or deal with other issues and problems. It's to be the executive of the executive branch. And one of the roles of the executive branch of our government is to cast vision, to answer questions, and to give a national narrative. He and Vice President Harris are the only nationally elected representatives. This is their job, to think of the whole. So you have to cast a vision on all issues that matter to Americans and speak about it from that unique executive branch place for the entire government. So these are the moments that you really want the person in that role to grab a hold. When you've called a press conference on inflation, you want them to take every question there is about inflation. So this is where we find ourselves. And so when we talk to, we're hopefully going to get Josh Remillard on here, who's running for Congress in North Carolina, if he can get through our little complex maze of system here and get on. We're going to talk to him about how it is that he's uniquely positioned to work in the federal government as a candidate. But everyone who runs for office has to do multiple things, right? There are no elected roles that have singular function to them. You're always doing a lot of things. And one of the things you're doing is literally representing. And you not only represent the people, but you represent ideas and perspective and vision to people. This is what needs to be picked up. So when, Mitch McConnell says, let's go back to Mitch McConnell's comments for 1 second. Okay. Yeah. Not picking on his misstatements, but what he should have and could have said to give him the same treatment that I'm trying to give to Joe Biden. The question is, what do you say to people of color who feel like the John Lewis Act not passing is going to make it harder for them to vote? The answer should be, voting really matters to a lot of people in this country. And so many people of color feel like it's not equal to them. Even though we can look and see that increase in voting rates are equal in that group as it is to other groups, that the perception really does matter. And here's how, as a Republican, I'm going to address this issue. Instead, what he said was, they shouldn't worry about it. It's not a story because the numbers are going up. So the question was, how do people feel? What's your response to people who have an interpretation and feel a way? And his response was, you shouldn't feel that way. Joe Biden is asked, do you think there's political implication to inflation for you in the midterms? And his answer is, of course there is. Why would you ask such a stupid question? Like this kind of response from our politicians, let's just be best at all of this, right? Let's just be better at look. I've never been elected to anything. I don't know. And these guys are as seasoned, literally, as you can get. Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden. And the fact that in the same 24-hour period, they're given these straightforward, simple questions that really matter to the American people, and they both respond to them in a way like this. My concern is it's not just partisan. This is a political problem. And for the kinds of things that we like to think about around here, how do you get to the common good? Yeah,
you're absolutely right, Doug. Both of these questions teed up opportunities to make an empathetic connection with the American people, and both of them completely whiffed on that. And they went different directions. One went sarcasm, one went complete dismissal, but they completely whiffed on the reality. Whether you think it's warranted or not, people are scared about inflation, and people are scared about their ability to continue to vote in our democracy. And if you can't, this is the real secret sauce, man. Like, the politicians that really do this great, are the ones who can connect, who can break through all of that stuff and get to the empathetic, emotional connection. Bill Clinton's, I feel your pain. There was something about his ability to connect with the emotional zeitgeist in the country that allowed him to be so successful. I think someone like Ronald Reagan also did this real well. And here we have two people who just completely unable to do it in just softballs teed up for them.
Okay, I think in order to get Josh on, I think we're going to have to restart this stream. So if you're watching now, we're going to restart the stream and we're going to start it over again. So you may have to refresh because somehow our live stream is not allowing him in. So Dan, is that what we're going to do? We're going to restart the stream?
Yep, we'll restart it real quick.
Okay, here we go.